Oh, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome back. Today we're working on my terminal emulator. His name is Termi, and we're like a couple weeks in now. We have something that like kind of basically works. So, I can type like ls, I get some stuff. I can type like git log, and I get like a terminal, or sorry, I get like a pager, and it says stuff with colors, and I can like scroll in it and stuff. And, I press Q, and I get my terminal back, and I can like scroll back and see stuff from the past. I can type like clear, and the text goes away. And that's kind of like where we're at right now. And so, just for a little bit of background info, what we essentially have is like we have like the Linux kernel. He has like a TTY driver, and he's kind of like abstracting away this like maybe like a connection to an external machine. Back in the day, you had like this guy's called like the VT100 is like a common terminal emulator, or sorry, terminal, actual terminal, not an emulator. This is a terminal. And he sits over here, right? And he's got like a keyboard and a screen, and then you have like your computer, and like he's got like a UART line or something going over here. And so you have like this like Linux like tracking of like process state and stuff relative to this connection, and then like, actual like transfer of data that goes over this line. And in that scenario, you don't have like much of a way to like talk to this other than by like sending data. So the way like these like terminal emulators work is they pretend they're this guy, they pretend they're the old terminal, and they have to like interpret all of the like same control codes that we used to send to this guy, right? So you say like, hey, I want to send the cursor up, and to do that you send like, oh, I'm gonna send the super secret like hex 1b like open brace, move the cursor to like 3 to the left, and like I think left is like D or something, right? Something like that. And so now we're like, well, we don't have these terminals anymore. We'll make a terminal emulator. And so Linux is like, well, we have like this TTY driver already that handles a bunch of stuff related to this guy, and so we'll make a pseudo terminal. And what'll happen is like on the machine, we're gonna like have like some like program that's running, and he's going to like have a file descriptor to this, and then everything else just like works the same under the hood. That's kind of like the what we're working, the assumptions we're working on right now. We have like a file descriptor, we write into it, it acts like we're writing to this terminal. It acts like we're like reading or writing to the terminal depending on like which side of the process you're on. Great. And what we're looking at today is arrow keys. Okay, so in this like world of control codes to do stuff, what happens when we type an arrow key? Well, we can run this program called script, and oopsies, we can like maybe say like script, and I want to see like what are my inputs, and I'm going to write those down. And if I just like type some characters and then go left, right, up and down, right, I can then exit this, and I can look at what inputs we like physically got. And so I can like say like, well, what did we type? And I know that I typed ASDF here, and so we can see like these like escape codes is the same like what we were just talking about. We have like this like 1B escape character followed by like this sequence to like D means move left, C means right, A means up, B means down, which matches up with some like definitions that we see in like ANSI escape codes on Wikipedia, right? We go over here, we see somewhere these commands, right? Like you say CSI, which is like that like hex 1B followed by an open bracket. That's what this like CSI is, and they're saying, oh, you can move things to the left, forward, down, back, up. Great. Seems simple, right? So one, bash can echo like, or a process can echo these things to the output, and it will move the cursor, right? So if I go back into that little test terminal and I say, echo tests, and then maybe I say, now I'm gonna like manually enter this thing that says like go, to what was up? Was it A or B? I can't remember. A, right? Move the cursor up by 2. And so what happens now is like you get this like weird shit, or where after it prints that, how do I say this? It moves the cursor up, and then everything written after that point is like relative to where the cursor is. So if I say like move like 10 up, we're going to see the next prompt show up like somewhere up here instead of at the bottom, right? We see it here. And so, but also we send those codes to bash to tell it, hey, we moved the cursor, because like bash doesn't actually like render the cursor, right? This cursor that we're seeing moving on the screen, this is like rendered by the GUI application. And in the world of this like emulated terminal, the terminal used to handle the cursor. And so like we have to tell bash, hey bash, we want you to know where we're rendering the cursor, and bash wants to tell us, hey, can you move the cursor to this other spot? And so they like have to be in sync. But they use the same codes to go back and forth. Great. Everything so far reasonable. We implemented this Sunday, and it was quite simple. Maybe I say git log. What is it? Git log. Wow, I'm blanking. I use this command all the time. But wow, I've not blanked on git command like this for a while. But we'll use an alias that I have for this, anyways. Right. The change is simple. If we see an arrow up and it's pressed, we send that sequence. Great. But what we find is that if we start running some programs, it no longer works, right? So I say, here's my program, arrow keys, great. I try to go up to see previous commands, great. Everything's chill, right? But if I run git log and I try to go press down here, instead of something happening like you would normally see, it just prints out this like fucking garbage in the bottom. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? And so this is where we got stuck at the end of last stream, and I did some like off-screen reading, which maybe I regret. Maybe it would have been better to do the investigation on stream, but it is what it is. And I think I understand it to some extent now. So I thought I'd maybe do like a little recap of kind of how I've discovered the right answer here, and then we can kind of like start trying to implement it. I think there's probably some experiments we still have to run to make sure that we really get it, but I can kind of like summarize or replay the sequence of events that like shows like how the fuck do we figure this out. So I think let's just start there. So let's go back into this like test terminal, and something that we can, my first guess here was that there's this interface that programs can use to like change the way that terminals are working. Right, so there's this command like stty, and he says like some stuff. Sorry, let's say stty-a. And these are like parameters of the tty driver, right? Like in this diagram, like we're writing like this application, right? But under the hood, there's like this like tty that we're talking to, right? And so stty is like saying like, what are the parameters of this tty? And so like if I go in here and I say like, what tty am I? I'm dev pts6. If I take like my current state, let's maybe copy paste this somewhere. Maybe we'll say stty dash a into like current state. And then we can do something else, like we can say let's do git log where we know the state is changed. Oh, sorry. I missed a step. So we know it's wrong, but we don't know like what is like correct. What is like the correct sequence, right? We run in our terminal emulator, we run git log, we know that the arrow keys we're sending are wrong, but what is like correct? And so we can run like that script command, again, in like a normal terminal that works, right? And we can say script, and we can run git log, and we can press down, 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 up, 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 right, right, left, left, right. We can see that that's working, and we can do the same thing we were doing before, and we can like hex dump the input log, and we can see that like these arrow keys now are being sent with 1B like for like escape code, but instead of like the open brace, they're sending like an O. So like A, B, C, and D are still in there, but it's like OB, 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 OA, OA instead of open brace A. And it's like, well, what the fuck is that? I've like never seen anything in any of the docs I've read indicating that like this thing followed by an O is like a special sequence, right? All of the ANSI docs that I've read here, they all talk about this like control sequence introducer that is like very clearly escape open brace. And I like looked through the ECMA 48 spec to like look for this sequence, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So we're kind of like regressing from like trying to read spec and implement it into like reverse engineering what the fuck a terminal is doing, right? And so we know it's sending these like OB instead of bracket B. Great. So my first guess was that the terminal has some state associated with it that you can set with these like term iOS commands. So this stty command we were talking about, this is basically like a kind of like interactive way you can work with this like term iOS specification, right? So if I say, you can look at this guy and he can say stuff like, I have this parameter like echo, and it says if this is set, then I echo and can put characters. And if I look at stty-a, I can like find that echo probably in here somewhere. I can echo right here, right? So all the parameters in like this like term iOS man page, they're like reflected here. And so all of this command is doing is like looking at that man page, calling the appropriate syscalls to set the appropriate state. And so my first thought was maybe when we're in git log, it's different. And so we said, let's save current state and then double check our TTY, it's dev bts6, and we can say, now when I'm going to git log, is it different? And so we go into a second terminal and we can say like stty-f dev bts6, because that's the one that we're talking about. And we can say, now this is, log state or something. Okay, and we can go like, is there a difference, right? We can look at that. And so we can say, like, I guess we diff current state and log state. And these diffs are kind of hard to parse because they're line by line, and I would like them not to be. So maybe we edit them a little bit to like try to line break them. So we can say current state, and what was it? I lost it. It was current state and log state. Log state. Okay. And so what we can just do is we can go and say any space replace with a new line. Nope, that's not what we want. We want maybe any semicolon space to be replaced with semicolon new line. Okay. Oopsies. What? Did that not work? Oh, here. Okay. And then here we want any space to be replaced with a new line. Okay. And we can do the same thing here. So it was semicolons are replaced with semicolon new line, and here space is replaced with space new line. Okay. Okay. And now we can probably diff those two. Okay, sweet. So we know in current state, in the log state, they undefined these like stop codes, probably not relevant. L-next is changed. I don't know what that is. Tab 3, iCanon, echo. So there are some things changing. These guys are all about like print to the terminal, maybe not relevant. Canonical mode, that's like seems maybe relevant. I don't really know what it is. L-next, also, I don't know what it is. And so what I did was I tried like setting all these parameters one by one. And none of these had the effect that I expected, right? None of them changed the fact that the application was getting these like different OD escape codes. So that's not it. I tried like stracing to see if there were like syscalls that were associated with these guys. So I tried running like a strace less, and then I can call this like less.log. Sorry, strace git log, and then say to less.log or something. Doesn't matter. And I was looking at less.log and saying like, well, can I look for syscalls related to terminals? And so I know that there's these like ioctls that call these like with parameters tc something. So I was looking for like tc at all. And the only thing that I really saw was like nothing really interesting. Like just if anything, just the same parameters that we were setting with stty is the only thing I really found in here that was like at all the same. So sure, maybe nothing to look at there. I was kind of like browsing like these like terminal database things to see if there's anything related. And here we actually found something interesting. Is I actually see these codes now, right? So I do see in here there is something in here that says escape OD, escape OB. So that's like the first clue that we found so far. And so you say like, okay, so what is this? This is like a list of, as far as I understand it so far, it's kind of like a list of sequences of escape, like sequences that you can say to like do actions, right? So like this clear command says, hey, if you want to clear the console, run this sequence. And so I'm like, okay, so it's saying something about like if you want to do keyboard actions, maybe you run this. So we can like look at man term info and look at what the fuck is KCUB1. And this is saying like, okay, so this is like the character you could expect when you press the left key. Okay, but I don't really understand like where that comes from, right? Because like we know that this is like a database that like applications use to process and send input to a terminal. But the terminal itself is like sending the command. So like either the process is like seeing that we say, hey, we want to use escape OD, and it's like somehow like setting that somehow, but like a syscall, we didn't see any syscalls related to that, so that doesn't really make sense. Maybe it's like hard coded in the terminal, but if so, why? I don't really fucking understand. And so we got to the point where I just cloned the Alacrity source code. And I was just grepping for like, okay, let's see if we see like bracket D, right? Because like we know that like that's what we expected to in like the normal case. I'm like, that didn't really get anywhere. But then I started like kind of just like looking for like the term arrow, and there's like, oh, okay, so there's something like arrow left, and like maybe somewhere somebody will say something that's like reasonable, and I'm like, okay, like here I do see like the letter D associated with this arrow left, and if I like look through this source code, there's like something complex going on, right? They have like this like sequence terminator, normal D, one based. What the fuck does that mean? And I was like scrolling through this code, and I was like, eventually you like look at like, okay, who's calling this? They're trying to build some sort of sequence, probably to output to the terminal. And down here you see like a payload that's formatted with like X1B, which is like the escape code, open brace, letter. Okay, sure. So then you see like, okay, so then like, what's the complexity here? And the complexity is like, they're like, if it's one based, we're going to like prefix it with a one, which makes sense because you're like, either I have to like move to the left or move one to the left. They're the same fucking thing, but like sometimes you need to provide that extra one in some scenarios, maybe. Sure. But the interesting thing here is that this is unconditionally an open brace. Not. So there's nothing in this part of the code that's like using that OD. And I kind of like gave up here for a little bit, and I came back at it like a couple hours later, and I did just grep the source code for like the escape code, hex 1B, OD, just like kind of like blind. And I'm like, oh, they have some tests where they're kind of expecting that like there are keys sent with that sequence that we saw in the like weird case. Okay, so there's something there, and there's like a test up here, and is there like a difference where they're expecting the like open brace? So what the fuck is the difference between this and this? And there is something process binding name nomod app cursor, not app cursor, app cursor. Okay, what the fuck is that? Right? Like here, like require app cursor, they have this like thing app cursor. So I started like grepping the code for like that. Like, what the fuck is this? And then I found this like bindings thing where it's like, oh, if we are in binding mode app cursor, then we switch to these guys. These are the codes that we were looking for. It's like, oh, okay, we finally found like something. But like still, what the fuck is app cursor? And I was struggling with this for a little bit. I was like looking through like ECMA docs. I was like Googling app cursor. Nothing really came up. But eventually I was like, okay, so somebody must be using this in code. And the only really relevant place that I could find was in, let's see if I can find where he's actually changing the behavior. So it must be the only thing that we can see is like, okay, in here they're changing bindings. So we can look at app cursor in the bindings file, and there's nothing really too interesting here. I don't really see anything other than that bindings macro and app cursor. But this guy looked a little bit interesting over here. So when we are looking for, like when we decide that we're in app cursor mode, how do we do that? And it's like this thing called cursor keys. It's like named private mode cursor keys. What the fuck is that? And it's like set private mode. What the fuck is that? Set private mode. Like who uses this guy? You know? Like where does he come from? And these are all tests. Is this not used anywhere? I thought it was. Onset private mode, set private mode. This is a test. This is a test. This is a test. This is a test. Okay, so weirdly, I guess I thought I saw this being called somewhere. Why does this exist if it's only ever called in tests? Oh. Test. Yeah, okay. Not sure. But this did put me on the right path where I saw this like named private mode thing in this like VTE crate. And so it started giving me some like terms to Google. And eventually I got on this path where I was like, I found in the ECMA spec, which is like the terminal emulator spec, they have this concept of like modes. So in here we can see modes. And so there are like, you can say, hey, I'm a program and I want you, the terminal that I'm talking to go into like a specific mode. And none of these modes had this like, what was it called? Cursor keys mode that we're looking for. So I was like, oh, that's kind of fucking weird. But somewhere in here, it says there is extra private modes that you could use. Private modes, yeah. So a device may implement some modes other than those specified in 7.2. These are called private modes. And what's weird here is that like, okay, so there's a private mode somewhere that talks about cursor keys. So we can look at like, I don't know, private mode xterm cursor keys or something is probably like along the line I was Googling. Oh, maybe it was this. Cursor keys. Yeah, and so we get to this thing where it's like, oh, application cursor keys is a mode. And we can like look up this guy. Terminal. And there was like a lot of Googling here, but where I eventually got to was this document here, the VT100 user guide. First of all, this is crazy that this is like the only useful information I could find on this whole thing. Like this VT100 is this like terminal from the year 1978. So we're like looking at the user guide for a 1978 device is the only place that I could find what was it called? Cursor key mode is the only place where I could find this description, which is this is a private parameter applicable to set mode and reset mode control sequences. So somebody's going to say, hey, I want to set mode cursor keys mode. This mode is only effective when the terminal is in keypad application mode and the ANSI mode is set. Under these conditions, if the cursor is reset before cursor key functions will set ANSI control the ANSI cursor control commands, the ones that we've seen before. If the cursor key mode is set, the 4 cursor keys will set application functions. It's like, what the fuck? And so we can like look here a little bit more. I think somewhere it like actually lists them out. I thought I saw somewhere I saw a table. I thought it was on this page of the cursor key mode sequences. Yeah, here. So here they're saying, okay, so if we're in that mode, we're going to be sending escape OA, OB, OCOD. It's like, okay. And so I can't find anywhere. I haven't been able to find why this exists. I now know that back in 1978, this VT100, which it seems like all fucking terminal emulators are emulating, I guess, for some fucking reason. Because like this is like a private mode. This isn't part of the spec. This is just like a private thing from this terminal. But apparently we're copying that. And my only guess is that like semantically, it's like maybe a little bit different. Maybe on that terminal, when I press the arrow key, the cursor on the screen, since it was in control of rendering the cursor, would like move. And maybe an application wants to tell us, hey, don't move the cursor around. Like we'll handle the cursor, like we'll tell you when to move the cursor. Like I want you to tell me to move my application state, right? You can imagine that like semantically, the arrow keys are tied to the cursor unless the application like specifically asks, no, we're not worrying about the cursor right now. Use them for something else. I guess. I don't really fucking understand it still. I feel like the cursor movement was fine. I guess like theoretically you could say that when an application echoes back these things, right? If they were going to echo back to the terminal, or the program is going to echo to the terminal that I ran this, maybe then like the terminal is not being like, oh fuck, I have to move the cursor. Maybe it's just like, okay, sure, I don't give a shit. Right? And so like you could argue that like semantically these are slightly different, but it seems like unneeded complexity to me. So I'm missing something probably for sure, but at the very least we at least know that this exists now, which is like a big win. And so that's kind of what I wanted to look at today was, can we implement this thing? And so what we should try is, if we understand this correctly, we should be able to force the terminal into this state. And I haven't done this yet, but I suspect that this will work. Is I want to try, can we issue this set mode command to put it into this DECCM? I think that's DEC was the company that made the terminal, and CKM stands for cursor key mode. Can we like force our terminal into that state? That would be kind of cool, because then we could say we fucking get it. So we can probably do something like, well, there's a set mode command that we have to find. So what is like we have to go back into this guy and look for the modes section. They must have send receive mode. How do I like set mode? Here we go. Set mode is probably some function that is in the table of contents here. They called it SM. Set mode. Okay. So we can say SM causes modes. It's like CSI parameter 0608. Maybe there's somewhere else that we can say like set DEC CCAM mode. Maybe somebody will tell us. CSI question mark 1H or 1L. Okay. So if we go into here and we say, we'll send our like control code sequence introducer, which is escape code 33 or hex 1B, followed by this like open brace, then it's saying I type question mark 1H. It's saying that if I echo this, we'll put it into application key mode. And so I'm going to press enter. And nothing's happening. Okay. But I wonder if we can say like cat-v if I press the arrow keys. Hell yeah, baby. We are seeing those like OB, OD, OA. That's really good. And if I then come back here and I say 1L to put it back into the normal mode, I should be able to say cat-v and mwah. Now we're back in the other mode. Okay. So I think we get it. As far as I can tell, in Alacrity, terminal we're using, they have some sort of like mode checker. Somebody issues this set mode command and they change what keybinds they're sending. For where they like check like, hey, I have like an arrow key, and usually I'm gonna like build this like control sequence, this like normal one. But if they set application mode, then I'm gonna send this directly instead. And so we should just do something similar in our terminal, which means that we have to handle whatever the fuck this is. So I guess we try to do that. I guess. So, oh, that's kind of interesting here. We actually have some logs already of unhandled CSI codes, H and L. So we probably could have gotten a clue there as well. Is that just, that's actually happening just like all the time. So it'd be kind of interesting. It'd be interesting to see, one, what is like happening here when we just like launch our terminal. Is it doing something already, trying to set some mode? We should like take a look at that, and then we're gonna have to like parse the modes and shit like that. But let's look right now at like what are we getting on launch. So I think that this comes from our like ANSI parsing stuff. We have this like control sequence parser, and you know, for anything that we don't handle right now, we just say like, what the fuck, we got something that we don't understand. But now we can probably say that if it's finished with an H, I think that's probably set mode. And if it finishes with an L, it's probably reset mode based off of the, like, sorry, I didn't mean to close that. Based off of the fact that here we see set and reset. Maybe we can double check the spec here, and we can say set mode ends in 0608 after some parameters, where these are 2 nibbles. So this is hex 68, and so we can look at the ASCII table, and we can look at 6, 8 is an H here, like row or column 6, row 8, H. So that lines up, and probably they have like a reset mode as well, where we can look for somewhere in here. They probably have something that's like QRS reset mode here, and this is 612, which is almost certainly the L, right? So 6, 12, so 10, 11, 12 is the L. Perfect. Okay, so we now know that when we get an H, we're in set mode, L, we're in reset mode. And the way our like parser works right now is he kind of says like, here are like actions that like somebody requested of you, terminal emulator. Like the output from the terminal said, I was a new line, or like I was requesting like a cursor move. And so I guess like we're just going to add one for like set mode. And maybe, where does this like question mark come into play? So here they're saying like parameters and terminator. They're saying that like, hey, I can send like these numbers to handle these. I don't know. Maybe the question mark indicates like a private mode thing, because like there's no question mark anywhere in here. So private modes may be implemented by using private parameters. See 541 and 74. Okay. So let's see, 541 parameter representation, and let's maybe 74. Let's look at 74 first. Private modes. A device may implement modes other than those specified in 7.2. Such modes are called private modes. See set mode and reset mode. Okay, not helpful. The reset state of a private mode shall permit the selection of coded representations of control functions, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So that's not helpful. What about 5.4.1? Is that useful at all? Parameter representation. Parameter bytes, blah, blah, blah. If the first bit combination of the parameter string is in the range this, the parameter string is available for private or experimental use. Its format and meaning are not defined by this standard. Okay, so 312 to 315, certainly the question mark is in there, right? So if we just go back in here and we say like man ASCII again, and we look at 312 to 315, we do in fact see open brace equal, or open angle bracket equals close angle bracket question mark. Okay. So we can say that if the first parameter is one of those, then it's private. So maybe we say like, you know, we have like params. Is it parser params? Yep. And if parser params length, maybe get, yeah, parser params get 0. This is a vector of just characters right now. We have like, or bytes, I should say. We have like bytes in an array. We're saying, well, if the first one is greater than or equal to angle bracket, maybe some angle bracket. I don't know how greater than or equal to works with options. I think that probably none is just sorted lower than everything else. And parser, well, let's say let first character is equal to this. Okay. If first car is greater than the angle bracket, and first car is less than or equal to some question mark, I think is what the last one was. And maybe we put a reference here. We can say ECMA 48 541 section B. That will make it clear. I guess maybe we have to put an ampersand on these because they want to be the same type. Cool. And in this case, then it's like a private parameter. So we'll say maybe we say, hey, one of the things that we can do is set mode here. And maybe we say that the mode is like standard. And that's like would have like a standard mode associated with it. So here we'd have like standard mode, which would have all of the things like supported by the spec. Or private. And in the private one, instead of like having an enum of modes here, I wonder, we could either try to like parse the mode now, or we could like leave that up to the mode handler outside, whoever actually like applies these guys. And I think I've changed my mind. I think I just want to say, you know what, anything that we support, we'll just parse out right here. So what are we looking for? The modes that we care about right now are cursor key mode. Was that cursor key mode? Yeah. Maybe we'll even call it deck CKM, and we'll say cursor keys mode. And we have to look at, maybe we will link this as a reference. Because this was a pain in the ass to find. Yep, okay. Okay. This is the only mode we support right now, but surely in the future we'll support others, so saying that we support these as modes like this now makes sense. And probably we want to like parse the mode from the params, so maybe we'll do something like we'll say like impl mode, and we could say like from params as a function. So the params are a bucket of bytes, and he's going to return back a mode. And maybe we'll even say unknown for now. We'll have like an extra type. And so now all we have to do is we have to like match the parameters. So we know that the cursor keys mode is $1. That's all we have to care about. And so we can say like match params. And if we see $1, we say this is mode decum. And anything else is mode unknown. Great, and if we want to add in more modes later, all we have to do is match different parameters. Wonderful. Wonderful. Unknown. There we go. Sure. And I guess we don't have to do this anymore because that would be handled like kind of implicitly by the mode conversion. So we can just kind of say instead, mode. Okay, well, first of all, I know that I'm going to want this reference again in the future, so I'm just going to copy and paste this here as well because I know that I'm going to struggle with this. Okay, so now we just say that if we got an H, we try to get the mode, and we say output push terminal output. We have a set mode from params self params. Easy. Fucking easy. No field type params on self. Oh, it's like parser params or something. Cool. Parser params. And I guess reset mode is the same, but reset mode. Seems reasonable. Seems reasonable so far. And then I guess we just need to close the loop and make sure that wherever we parse these guys, we handle these cases. And so for now, we're just going to set mode, and reset mode, and we will just log for now. Print line, set mode with the mode, and reset mode with mode in these two cases. And we need to implement debug for this guy, which should be easy. You just kind of slap a little derive debug. And it looks like we also need to derive EQ and partial EQ because probably in our like unit tests, we're probably comparing these guys in some way. Type terminal mode is more private, so we need to make this guy public. Boom, easy. Hi there, hello. Oh, I missed a hello message from No Good Nick earlier as well. Hello, welcome. Okay, so I think that should run. And we should now be able to run our, like, a simple little test. Ooh, main panicked. CSI parser could not be pushed to once finished. Once again, I forgot. This guy is not, that usable. So I need, like, there's some mistakes in here for sure. But, one of the things that we have to do is, once we finish, any parsing, we have to reset our, like, overall parser to be in like a sample state. I don't know. Maybe that should be handled automatically. Maybe it makes sense that we have to manually do it because it seems reasonable to say like, I know as someone who's like using the parser when it's ready to be reset and like it's maybe complex enough that like, I don't know. But I fuck this up like every single time. So fucking annoying, but sometimes it is what it is. Okay. So we should be able to we'll do a quick little test here to try setting some modes. So if I say like echo-e, oh god, dude, oh, this is so great. So like for like the past like 2 weeks, we haven't had backspace, and so every time I've like typoed anything, I've just been like fuck, and like hit enter and try it again, and just until I like managed to type this like complex string with no typos, and it's so good to be able to press backspace now. I should have done this day fucking one. Okay, but anyways, we echo our escape code and we try to set a mode. Let's just start like set mode 1. What happens here? We got a set mode request with unknown, and maybe we should log what the unknown request was. I think that's pretty reasonable. So maybe in here we'll just store the params. So maybe we will I guess so there we could try to like do bullshit Rust ownership stuff, and we could try to say like, you know, we had some params in as a slice, right? And then you have to like track lifetimes, and then you have to put like a lifetime in here, and then like, but that gets like complicated because like maybe the parser state doesn't like, maybe like this doesn't outlive, right? So what I'll do instead here is I will just say vec u8 and we'll copy it in. I don't give a shit. And this is just like the parameters associated with it, which means here, I guess taking in a slice here is maybe reasonable, right? Because we're not like, we might not try to consume it, but also, I think that the only place that this is used... yeah, fuck it. We can't, like, consume it here really very easily. With, like, even though we know that we're immediately gonna, like, reset the parser because we do this, like, Rust doesn't know that, and so, like, passing it as a slice and only copying it sometimes is, like, maybe it's fine, right? These things are short. But, like, if I were being, like, micro-optimizing, which is, like, kind of like what, like, Rust kind of tricks you into thinking you have to do, you know, you might want to say like, oh, this guy should take in a vec u8 and it should be consumed, and then we don't have to do any copies, but I don't really give a shit. You know, we'll just do vec this guy. It doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't matter. Okay. So now we store the parameters, and now when we log unknown, it should come out for free. What we have here. But then I don't really like that. Right? That's like really pretty unclear. So let's go run my like echo thing again. Yeah, I don't really like this. So what might be kind of more fun is if we manually implemented debug here. Ugh. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. Or maybe we implement display. Nah, debug's fine. Debug's fine, and we'll just manually implement it so that we can like kind of log out a little bit more easily. So it is like impl format debug for mode, and then I have to import use stood format. Nope, stood format. Here we go. That's the first use in this whole file. I don't know if I've ever had an entire module with no imports before that I've noticed. That's kind of crazy. I guess because everything in like these parsers is just like iterators and like vectors and stuff. Interesting. Okay. So now we have to implement format. And I think there's like debug struct. What does this do? I like set the name in fields. Debug tuple, debug list. So none of these are like debug enum, which makes sense. So I guess we like match self. And you know, if we get mode decum, we f right stir decum. Okay. And if we're in mode unknown, this is where we're going to get a little bit fancy with it. So we have like data, and I guess we're going to try to like cast the data to a UTF-8 string. Let's think about this. So there's going to be some printable characters and some non-printable characters. It would be nice to print the printable characters. No, they're all going to be printable because they're all parameters, and all parameters are in the range of printable characters. Hell yeah. Okay. So we can say params, and we can then say params, let s params string is equal to the params as a string, stood stir from UTF-8 params. And this is one of the rare times where I feel like it's okay to write expect here and say parameter parsing should not allow non-UTF-8 characters here. It's a terminal that it has to implement all the technical debt we've accumulated since 1974. Yeah, I mean, I feel like, okay, so like the reason I wanted to make this project is because like there's a lot of stuff like this that I don't understand, right? But what I'm missing, I feel like I'm missing something where like I don't understand why we do it this way at all. Like at some point between 1975 and now, like in the last, what is that, like 50 fucking years? Is that right? 50 years. Like, wouldn't somebody be like, you know what? We'll keep legacy behavior. That's fine. But like, here's a new API where you can just like write characters to a buffer, like you would like, and like, why don't we just do that? I don't get it. I don't get it. But maybe it's just not worth it because like every terminal emulator has to maintain the old way anyway. So how do I have two ways? But then like applications could like do something more sane. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe at some point I'll be like, oh, it just doesn't fucking work that way. But we'll find out. Okay, so we have like the params as a string, and I want to log them as a string. Great. So we just say f right stir. I guess we have to, can I say like format args? Is there like a way to do this? F right format? Yeah. So you say right format args, and then you pass in this thing. And this is like some sort of like magic. I shouldn't say magic. Nothing in code is magic. But like this is like some like bullshit. Lots of things in code are bullshit. To basically say like, hey, I don't want to like allocate a string. I can like do this like parsing of parameters and shoving them in here without having to do that. So what do we have? Like unknown. Oh, you're pretty sure he's gonna suggest? You think he's going to suggest switching it with right? That makes sense. Yeah, I should use the right macro, I guess. But we'll see if this one works. Unknown. And we would just put in the parameters here as a string. Nice. Remove the semicolon. Great. Vec doesn't... oh, I need params s, not params. Of course. Okay, and then if I cargo run this again... What is a possible alternative model to the VT100 bullshit that you've been envisioning? I mean, I just like would think like say I just like have my terminal emulator, and my terminal emulator, if the environment variable, right, if it's like echo term, I have like this terminal environment variable that like says who I am, and I have like term info, who like oopsies, info comp, and he like says all of the quirks about my specific terminal. You can just like add a quirk that's like, hey, I have like a socket that you can write to do other shit, or like I have like like shared memory that you can just like stick characters in shared memory, and I'll just display them as you wrote them, like stuff like that. I can imagine, right? You could imagine that, like you could have like graphics APIs, right? You could say like, hey, here's like, if you want to like stick like an RGB buffer in here at this size, fuck it, do it. Like here's like a command you can run to like create one, and like here's like a bucket of bytes that you can write into in shared memory. Like it just seems like you could do something like that. And I don't know why we're so limited still by like this fact that we're emulating a terminal from the past. Can't Kitty do that? That sounds, I actually think I saw something about Kitty recently, and Kitty, if I just Google Kitty, I'm not gonna get my what? Terminal emulator? It does seem like maybe that's exactly what like the they support display images when image match is shared. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So they must do stuff like that. Let's look at that a little. Oh god. Shut the fuck up. Oh, it's an 18-minute video. I just want just give me like a demo overview. I mean, I think that, okay, so if you're saying that they have that, then sounds reasonable. like maybe other people have already had the same thoughts that I'm having. Isn't ioctl outdated? Ioctl's thing for things like that. TPTY and will support these features. So I think ioctl is more for things like that your kernel driver supports. I would think that like what I'm thinking of is not kernel driver level. It would be like application level. Is ioctl outdated? I didn't know that. Ioctl deprecated. Are you like what's the alternative? Oh, sysfs. So you do ioctl on character devices, but like most drivers should implement like sysfs alternatives, maybe? I don't know. I hadn't heard that until right now, so. Kernel guys always want to remove ioctl, but it ain't happening. That sounds true to me. Because I know that I've written kernel drivers in like the past 5 years, and I was using ioctl for sure. So I didn't even know it was a problem. Okay, this is kind of nice. So it's saying I have an unknown thing with this flag, which is nice. So it looks like bash is sending some private parameter 2004 every time, which I think I've actually seen this in like the ANSI scapegoat things. Let's see. On Wikipedia, yeah, so this is bracketed paste mode, is this question mark 2004. But now we want to try sending out like, maybe we want to try sending our specific mode that we were talking about. So the mode was, I've already forgotten. It's open thing, question mark, 1H. Okay, so if I echo this, I do see a set mode decum, great. And then I do the same thing with an L, and I see reset mode decum, great. And if I say literally anything else in the entire fucking world, oops, delete key doesn't work. Oh, I can't use characters here. I need to use like 1, 2, 3, 4, H. There we go. So now I have set mode unknown 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. Perfect. It seems like a good chunk of the debt is from multi-user tech systems, not so much this protocol. Bell Labs really fucked over computing for how many centuries ago. Oh yeah, I guess like the like things like the fact that like I boot Linux, and when I'm working on like a firmware device, I can like use a terminal on my PC over UART. I guess that there's like some value to that, right? In that case, like I'm running a terminal emulator on my machine, but it's emulating a terminal emulator for another. It's emulating a terminal for another machine. And so like that's like kind of reasonable. So I can see why you would want to keep all that legacy behavior so stuff like that still works. But yeah, I don't know. It seems so limiting. Okay, so we've correctly parsed the modes. Huzzah. And so now we have to fucking do something with that. So I guess right now we have like our terminal emulator with all of his state, and I guess he just has more state now. Modes. Terminal mode. Current mode. Do I want like probably one? Do I want like one thing for all modes, or do I want like one? Like I could just here store that I'm in DK whatever deck secum mode or whatever right here directly. I guess that's fine for now. Right in the future, we might want to expand that, but you know you're supposed to what's the thing called, don't fucking over engineer stuff that you don't know you're gonna do yet, whatever that whatever that uh whatever that's called. I can't even remember the word I'm looking for. Whatever concept, whatever that Yagni, that's the one. Yeah, you aren't gonna need it. So I guess for now it's fine to just store like decum mode as a bool here. Keep it simple, stupid, another one. But I was thinking of Yagni. Yeah. I always try to do the simple thing and slap it to do saying what I'd love to see instead. Yeah, that seems reasonable. The only problem is that like I think that's how I end up with stuff like this, where I look at like my parser, like this shit where I have like a while loop and a for loop inside the while loop and then a match inside the for loop, and then in here like I think that's how I end up with this, where I'm like, you know, I don't need to do this now, but I'll do it later. And then you just like keep expanding and then you're like, well, I don't want to do it right now, right? But so it's a hard balance to strike. But I think for now we will just call it decum mode. Did I spell this wrong? Decum mode. And this is going to be false by default. And if somebody calls set mode decum, we can just match the mode here, I guess. And we can say we have mode, which comes from ANSI mode. I guess putting the mode definition in ANSI feels kind of wrong. Maybe the mode definition should be out here. And like he should be like here. Just like clutter this fucking massive fucking file even more, you know? Just really overdo it. And I guess this doesn't have to be public anymore. I think can lower levels of visibility view parent? I'm not really sure. I guess we'll find out real quick. And then this like use stood format comes here. And cargo check. Am I missing something? Match mode. Blah blah blah. Okay, so it seems like everyone's happy so far. So we can just match the mode wherever we were doing that before. And we can say mode decum. And if we have this, then we say self decum mode is equal to true. Okay, otherwise, we say we have unknown. I guess in anything else, we'll say unhandled set mode. On mode. Great. Great, 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 great. And we do the same thing on reset mode. Oh dear, I'm always confused by this way of writing stood imports. Oh really? I've always liked this way a lot more. Like grouping by thing makes so much more sense to me versus like if I'm like use stood path, use stood path buff. It's like, you know, my brain like immediately sees this and is like, wait a second, those could be in the same thing. And then like the block syntax just kind of like expands and expands and expands. Dude, apparently you can do all of these in one, which is pretty funny. I was looking at like cargo format options at some point. No, Rust format options maybe. Rust format configurations. Here we go. And there was like imports. Yeah. Imports layout. No, not this one. It's import granularity, and one of the options here is you can ask Rust format to put everything in one. And one's crazy. I've like never seen this. That's fucked. But yeah, then there's also module. I like module or crate. I think probably crate is what I like. But anyways, doesn't fucking matter. This is like one of those things where it's like, who fucking cares? You know? Like I try to like say, you know, I have my own preferences, but in reality it's like it really doesn't fucking matter. Like as long as you can like as somebody who reads code, you're going to have to learn to parse all of them anyways. So like whichever one is there, it doesn't matter. Like you have your preference and everyone has their preference and it's fine. Okay. So what am I going to do in decum mode? I guess I have to say that like when I write to the terminal, we're gonna have to change behavior, which means like this concept right now of writing like a buffer, like right now we're saying the GUI is responsible for converting like the key presses that the GUI finds into like text that we want to send to the terminal. And I think that that's just like not really reasonable anymore. We could say that like in the case where you're sending ASCII codes, that's fine. But maybe now we have to be a little bit more complex here. And we say, we take in like a concept of things that we want to write. And if they're, you know, we'll switch what we actually send depending on the mode. So I guess we'll call this like terminal input. Because we have the other things, terminal output is our like parsed version of what the terminal is sending to us. Terminal input could be like the thing that we want to send. Another layer of abstraction, yep. Yeah, I guess like technically you could say that like we could take in the eGUI keys directly, but I know, like I guarantee that I'm going to want to implement a separate GUI on top of this. Because I know that the only reason that I would like ever actually use this terminal emulator is if I want it to be kind of like Tmux. I want it to like have like a GUI in like normal interaction on my desktop, but I also want to be able to like share sessions between GUIs, and I want to be able to like run like when I SSH to my machine, also launch that same session. So I know that in like the future, I'm probably gonna want to implement like a console thing, and so I want to keep the GUI abstracted. Also, I don't like letting my dependencies leak, right? So like I like the idea of like the GUI being the only place that touches eGUI, and everybody else uses their own things. But it results in extra code sometimes like this. So here we'll have like what? Like ASCII, right? Something that can be just sent directly. And this will just have like a U8 inside him. Maybe. And then we will have control key, right? Somebody press control while sending something. So control modified, control, yeah, we'll just call it control. So normal key press and normal key press with control. And then we're going to want something like, what are we trying to do? Arrow. I guess we'll just say arrow right, I guess. We'll just fucking enumerate them here. Which kind of sucks, but not the end of the world. Okay, and then we'll make like an implementation for this guy. Do you use your own nvim config, or do you done distro like LazyVim or Otter Astro or something like that? I just have like almost default, to be honest. Like config nvim. I guess my definition of almost is different than everyone else's, but like you know, here's like a few options that I set for like pretty stuff. A few binds, nothing crazy. And then just like plugin configuration, where these plugins, there are a few of them, but it's like telescope. Like really I could do without most of them. It's telescopes really important for me. And LSPs are very, very, very important for me. But everything else is like, could live without it. Yeah. That's it. Okay, what was I doing? I was gonna say, I have this thing. I want to like convert my terminal input to an output. So we'll say like to Uh, to payload, I guess that seems reasonable because calling it output is like still a little bit unclear. Right, this is like terminal input to terminal input. This the output of the input to the other input. So yeah, we'll just call it payload. That seems fine. And this is gonna return like U8, I guess. It might be able to do this. Like if it's a static U8, that might work. No, I think it has to be vec U8 maybe. Or maybe U8 1. No, it can't. It has to be, yeah, we'll say vec U8. That's fine. We'll allocate. Fuck it. We can afford to allocate. Can you tell me the theme? It's fantastic. Yeah, we've done this a few times. So as we have a theme is a color scheme is Sonikai, except that it's we don't have 256 color mode on in the terminal, which makes it look like really fucking like unique. But you know, I didn't like do that on purpose. I just, you know, we just ended up there somehow. Okay. So if we have an ASCII character, terminal input ASCII, we have some character and we just return the character. Okay, great. Yeah, it looks very similar to Grovebox. I did use Grovebox for a long time, so that's maybe not surprising. If we get a control key, we have to then say what happens on a control key press. We have this like code from our GUI that lives here right now, that should live over here, that says like, hey, we're gonna like mask off the top bits of this character, and that's gonna turn it into a control code. So we can just kind of like slap this guy in here because we're gonna delete him from the GUI in a second, and then we say car to control code like this. Okay. You know what? My stupid brain is like not going to be able to like let this go. I really don't like allocating vector for one character, so I can't help it. We're gonna make a new return type, and it's gonna be terminal input payload, and he's gonna have several options. He's gonna be like single, which is a U8, or many, which is a vec U8, and maybe we even get crazy with it. We call it like a copy on write, but we'll figure that out later. I can't help it. I can't help myself. Terminal input payload. So this is a payload Rust moment. Dude, for real. It's like, this is like so fucking stupid. There's no reason to do this, but I just can't help myself. I can't help it. Can just use small vec. Yeah, but I don't have then I'd have to like write a small vec. I could import a small vec, but then I'd pull in another dependency. And fuck dependencies. We have not invented here syndrome on this stream. We can't do that, you know? Terminal input payload single. Okay. Implement own small vec. Yeah, I mean, we could do that, but then it's like, do I want to do that right now? It's like, no, I don't want to do that right now. Okay. So then we have these other versions of terminal input like this. Okay. And all of these guys get like an arrow key to something. Like this. And I guess this isn't a vec actually. We can get away with a static U8 slice. I think. Because here we're going to say the payload is going to depend on decum mode. Okay. So here's a match decum mode. Okay. And if it's true, we send out 0x1b escape code C? No way I fucking remember. There's no way. Cursor forward C, back is D. Okay. So, and then the same thing is false. Oh, sorry. This is false case. False case is this. True case is with a O instead. Cool. And we need to say now that we are terminal input payload many. for both of these. Okay. And now all I have to do is do the same thing for all these guys. So I'm actually going to just copy paste it like this. And right is now going to say left, and this is going to say D instead of C everywhere. Okay. Then we have arrow up. And he is A, not C. Wondering when you're going to start on bracketed paste because I never understood that. Well, I mean, as far as I understood, I'm going to just do things in the order that they bother me. And considering that I don't know what the fuck bracketed paste is right now, I can imagine that that's going to take a while to bother me. Because, you know, I'm going to see the error, but, like, you know, it doesn't matter until I see something not rendered correctly, you know? Okay, these guys want me to dereference the borrow. Fine. But everyone else is fine. Okay. Which means now we then take our write implementation, which is somewhere. There's too much code in this file, by the way. This is one of those things where it's like, I should split this shit up, but I just haven't got there yet. So this is going to take in a terminal input. And we're going to say, there's no more while loop here, but there will be once we turn into a payload, maybe? No. There will be. Okay, so we have, let's think. Match to write and to write to payload. Okay. And we pass in self deco mode as a parameter. And now we say we have terminal input payload single. And I guess I've changed my mind on this actually, because since everything is like, there's no vector in here, this can be simplified by just saying, oh, no, it can't. I was going to say it could be a static U8, but that's untrue because these guys are not static. Fuck. Okay. We'll keep going then. But we can turn these guys into slice here without fucking anything up. So we can say single. We can just say that, you know, we have this character, and I think we can just return a slice like this. And many, we'll call this what? Value goes to value or something. I think that's right. And then we can say let to write is now bound to a U8 slice. Mutable U8 slice. And then I think the code that's here already just continues to work, which is kind of nice for us. And now we just in the GUI, instead of doing, you know, all of this shit, we now map it to terminal inputs. So here we have text, and any text that we get, we're going to convert that into just ASCII input. So we're going to say terminal input. We need to import that thing, terminal input, which is probably still private. So here we need to look for terminal input, and we need to make them public. Oopsies, not the payload. Not the payload. This guy. I missed some parts in the middle. Are we just parsing two modes, a set and reset one, or are there other modes? We're only parsing the one mode for our, for like the arrow key stuff. But we are also now logging modes that we don't support, right? So if we, I can't cargo run right now, but probably somewhere back here. Yeah, here. So we have like, we see that we have like set modes and reset modes for Decum. But then we also see like, hey, there's like unknown thing. We've got like a nice little log for it, which is kind of nice. Nice for us. It happens to me sometimes on OS X, and I go how to fix it since it's apparently a terminal setting. It's like sometimes when you paste into the terminal, you get text surrounded by weird escape sequences. Bracketed paste, start, stop are escape sequences which tell the PTY to start, stop ignoring escape sequences. The app will get all input unmodified. Oh, that makes sense. Sure, sure. So like you're trying to copy paste some bucket of bytes in to some file, and you want to make sure that like doesn't fuck up. I wonder why Bash is doing that for me. I wonder if I have like some dumb shit running in my prompt. No, I can't imagine why Bash is doing that. Very strange. Very strange. Okay, what was I trying to do? I had this terminal input. I was trying to change the GUI inputs into the terminal inputs. So the text will say for character in text as bytes, I guess. We do something. We say self terminal or terminal emulator. But if it ignores escape sequences, how can it know to stop ignoring escape sequences? I think it's all the other way, right? Its input is ignored, but output is still has the sequences. So you can't type in an escape sequence, but you can like still parse them as they come out, I think. So this is terminal input ASCII character. Okay. Boom. Easy. We get rid of this copy and write shit. And now if we get an enter key, oh, we have to handle enter, of course. Of course. Which means here we say terminal input enter goes to a single character of a new line. Easy. Easy. Okay, so this guy has now terminal input enter. So here we go bump, 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 enter. Boom. Easy. Okay. Copy was Control C specifically. So this is going to be terminal input control with a C. I guess lowercase is fine. Okay. Okay. Then these guys are any key that are pressed with control. And we have to parse these manually. So that's fine. So this is key A is less than or equal to key Z. Okay, so here we say all of these guys are going to be let A offset is equal to key minus key A. Okay. E-frame GUI key. What isn't it like here? Oh, fuck. It doesn't let me do that. That's annoying. What did I do here before? Oh, I took the name out. Fine. Yeah. Okay. So let name is equal to this. And assert the name as blank. We got the name as a character. And so then we can just say, write the character name here. Perfect. And this stuff goes away. And open bracket. If control co, we have to handle these manually, I guess. So we have like this. Open bracket, I think, is like this. Yep. I guess we can even just say, yeah, it's fine, actually. Fine. We'll do it this way. Copy, paste, delete, replace with close bracket, and backslash is the same, but with backslash here. Perfect. And otherwise, what is happening here? It's like a key we don't support. So like print line, unexpected, control, key, and we will log it with key.name. Was behavior clear is going to clear the whole buffer or everything up. So for right now, we just clear literally everything, including scroll back, which I think is wrong. But you know, it's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. Okay, so we now have backspace, which we also probably have to add as a thing that we support in here. So backspace. And here we just do whatever they did here for backspace. So we use this magic del character. Backspace, and he gets this payload, which is going to be 0x7f now, I think was what it was. Del character 0x7f, yes. Okay. And did I put a comment on there? Yeah. this is important. We have to remember that this is the v erase in term info. Okay, which means here we just say we are terminal input of backspace, please. That's what I actually prefer, to clear everything out. I was actually disappointed when Kitty didn't clear anything. I think that that's intentional. I think I saw somewhere that xterm has an extended command to clear like literally everything, including scrollback. Ah, yes. It's so the way clear works, we can take a little detour here because it's kind of fun to talk about. So the way clear works is term info. Nope. Info comp. That's the one. Yep. Okay. So here, clear says, hey, I'm gonna I wish I could highlight. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna send this escape code which says put the cursor to the top left of the screen, then run this clear command which says clear everything forwards of the cursor, right? This erase and display, clear everything from the beginning of the screen. But there's this other command that's like clear everything and scroll back. And so probably one of like the many commands that's listed in here, I bet has that just like 3J in here. So we can probably search back for 3J. No? I guess it doesn't. Maybe there's not a command for it. But yes, you can. Scroll back can be cleared with escape 3J. So if I said like echo -e 033 bracket 3J, that cleared the scroll back, but not what's on screen. So you would have to do like 33, move the cursor, 033, clear forwards, then clear scroll back. And that should do it, yeah. So there is a way to, but it looks like it's not baked into the clear command, I guess. Is there like, can you ask it to do everything? There must be, oh, here, one could clear scroll back using this. Blah, blah, blah. This is a note, though. History. That's kind of fun. I've never seen this. This is a good little Easter egg. So maybe if you say like infocomp xterm, maybe xterm specifies that the clear command, he uses 2J. But we're looking for 3. Does he have 3J anywhere in here? No. So I don't know. Maybe there's no command to do it for you. Or maybe there is, I just haven't found it. But it's possible, at the very least. You could probably change the clear definition to have the terminal scroll back if that's what you want. But I don't know if it's like easy to like patch infocomp on the fly. Or, sorry, like your term info on the fly. I don't know if that's straightforward. Okay, and then for the arrow keys, we just propagate them on. Boom, 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 boom. So here we have terminal input arrow up, arrow down, render arrow left, and arrow right. So to build terminal, you render text on screen. That's it. I mean, I think that it's a lot more than that, but it is a lot less than you would think, right? It's kind of like get input. So you have like a file descriptor that is like kind of like the channel between you and the process that you've launched. And you can like send special characters to do special things, or you can like receive special characters that are like requesting things, right? So like one of the many things that we're doing in here, one of the very many, is we have like this like ANSI parser, and he's gonna like run some parsing shit, and sometimes he's gonna say something like, hey, I saw like the letter H, which means like, hey, I want to like move the cursor pause. And so then we have like this like buffer in our terminal, and we like see the request, and we like move the cursor to that spot. We do all this stuff to like track state. If we open huge log file and it lags, how to fix that? I think that like generally the answer is like do less, right? So surely like you could write a program that knows how to intelligently jump to areas that you care about, only render the parts you care about, right? Like seeking in a file isn't that long, so like theoretically it should be fine if you were like, yeah, I don't know, you could use less or something. Yeah, I'm sure. Right, you could do the same thing here, right? Your terminal emulator could intelligently keep track of the scrollback, except for the fact that we know that if you were to like cat a large file, your terminal emulator, we now know from like implementing the shit that it needs to parse out all of the stuff that the terminal, like it needs to parse all of the stuff that it spits out. So now it's like I have to actually like run code on every single letter that I see coming out of that output, and that's like a pain in the ass. And like that output might have some like escape sequences that like do unexpected shit, and so like maybe the slowdown's like inevitable. Maybe there's some sort of command that you can like echo beforehand that's like, hey, don't try to like look at any ANSI codes, just like fucking paste it. But I don't know. Maybe that's something that we could add if we wanted it. Distracted again. What was I doing? GUI. I was translating key presses. So I think that we've got all the key presses translated. Okay. And we just have to say that in the empty case we do nothing. And we get rid of this right because it's not what we want anymore. And I think it might just work now. Cargo run. Nope. Missing some shit. Oh, it doesn't like this. It doesn't like that at all. So we can go mod 616. It didn't like this. Fuck. I thought that we found a little tricksy. Damn. Okay, so we're gonna have to handle these like correctly then. So we'll say this is mute to write, which will just do what we did before. Say we have a bunch of bytes to write, and please write them all. Please, please, pretty please. And in the case where you have a single thing, we will still do the same, but we will, I guess, maybe can we assume this will work? I guess we say let written is equal to 0, and we'll say while written is equal to 0, do this. Right, so then if it ever writes anything, we're good to go. And we'll just write like this single character this way. Mismatched types. Expected this, found that. What is it pitching about? Expected U8 found. Am I high? Oh, because I see. To right is wrong here. There we go. I think we're good. Remove this mute. Chillin'. Cargo run. Are we good? Maybe we're good. Okay, so we can do, simple tabs for ls, up arrow working, down arrow working, left arrow, right arrow, good. Backspace, enter. Are we chilling? Okay, now the moment of truth. We're gonna get log. Fuck! It's still not working. We're still sending the bracketed keys. But let's try. What if we manually run that echo command to set the mode? Here we go. Let's manually set that mode. Now, when we type the arrow keys, maybe we run script. No, we want to run. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Oh, no. Echo dash-E. We have to turn off the shit, so we say, please reset my state with a G, I think? No? SGR. It's M. Yeah, there we go. Sick. Reset doesn't work. Reset, it just does nothing in this terminal. So because of like the same reason, you have to specify what the reset control codes are, and I haven't done that. Okay. So what was I trying to do? I was trying to run script help. And I think one of the things that script can do is I can specify a command. So I can say file? No. C command. Yeah. Okay. So I can say script -I input.log and -C get log. Okay. Down, up. Oh, wait. I think it was doing it. So we could say hex dump -C script. I forgot input.log. And in here, this is so fucking hard to. Oh yeah, here we go. We have the OA, OB. I'm pointing with my finger like you guys can fucking see what I'm pointing at on the cursor here. I have the like OA, OA, OB, OC, but they're not doing anything because maybe just maybe, I have to specify that that's what they are. So we could maybe go into our termy TI and specify those escape sequences that we saw in, if I say like info comp xterm 256 color, or maybe just xterm, we can look for the same sequences. So we can look for like OD. So here, K key cursor backwards 1. Sure, we can shove that in here. And I think that they're all the same. K cursor back, K cursor down, K cursor forward, K cursor up. Yeah. So we can just copy paste these. Boom. And I bet that, like, I guess that means that, like, N cursors is saying, like, hey, what are the codes for cursor movement? And let's use those. Maybe. We'll find out. How hard is it to implement Unicode UTF-8? No fucking idea. I haven't got there yet. Oh, interesting. So, maybe less isn't actually sending that request. Maybe there's a terminal capability that I have to say that I want for less to do that. And so maybe this whole thing was fucking useless. Maybe I didn't have to do any of this. And if I just used these codes here, maybe less would parse those correctly. Maybe. Let's just see. Oh! So I actually wasted a bunch of fucking time. We wasted a ton of time here. Because I could have just said, hey, listen up, bud. Listen up. I know that in normal terminal emulators, you do this shit. But for me, the keys that you should expect are just the default ones. But, now that we've done all this work, we might as well match behavior. We might as well go all the way. So one of these many capabilities must say, like, hey, you can fucking do that shit if you want. So we could maybe look for, like, the set mode command. So maybe is one of these many things a question mark in here? So info comp xterm. And maybe we, like, stick this into Vim. And we can look for a question mark. And are any of these, we can look for even, like, we can even go crazy. We can look for question mark 1H, because we know. Okay. This looks relevant, maybe. SMKX. Suck my kicks. So we can maybe, like, SMKX. Let's not forget that. Man, term info. And we say, SMKX. What the fuck is this? Enter keyboard transmit mode. Yeah, okay. So probably if I set my kicks to execute the right thing, then and the reset my kicks, that seems reasonable. I wonder what the escape bracket is that they're doing at the end. They're saying escape equals as well. I don't know what that is. Okay, so for now, let's just take this part. Right? We don't know what that escape equals is, so we won't think about it. Because we just ignore things we don't understand in this world. But we know from what we've parsed so far that this should turn off the change in behavior, and this should turn it on. And so I think that if we do this, now when we type git log, this works, okay? And if we run script on this guy, we will see that when we press down and up, we probably get those new codes. So we can look at hex dump. Oh god, Control R working in here is so wonderful. But somewhere in here, I should be seeing OB, OA, OA, OA. Look at that. That's wonderful. I would highlight it so that you guys can see it, except we don't have the ability to highlight in this terminal, so you're just gonna have to, like, look at where my mouse cursor is. But we do see the OAs and OBs in here. So that's a kind of, like, fun little adventure. I think we kind of did everything there. We kind of went down the wrong path, right? Because we were trying to, like, replicate other terminal behavior, and we could have just short-circuited all of that and just changed the key commands that it was expecting. But I think that was, like, a fun little adventure. Worthwhile. We learned a lot. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So what did we do? We learned that there are these like set mode commands that have like private things, and that every terminal in the whole fucking world, it seems like, is emulating this like VT100, which is like this like fucking terminal from like 1975, and we don't know why they're doing it, and we're copying their behavior, so we're just propagating the not understanding. Maybe they don't know why they did it either. Maybe we're all just doing the same shit. But we're replicating behavior that we see in Xterm and other terminals like Alacrity. We now know that we have to like in our term info, what key codes we set is like what less will expect. And we know that they can say, hey, if you're a VT100, I expect that if I do this, you're going to go to an application cursor mode. And that means send different fucking characters. And so we send those different fucking characters. Everyone's happy. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. Pretty good. I think I'll call it there for the day. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, I stream most days around 1 or 2 o'clock Pacific time for 1 or 2 hours. We hit 1.5 today, which is like, you don't really have much more time to do anything else more interesting, but so you got to call it. And more than 2 hours is like, it doesn't really translate to YouTube very well. And if I want people to like watch VODs and stuff, then you kind of got to keep it there. So, that's the stream schedule. If you miss a stream and you want to watch, when you miss, or if you want to go back and see some of the other projects we've worked on, there's a YouTube link in the Twitch description. There's a GitHub link there too, so you can go check out code. And there's a Discord link if you want to, get announcements for when I'm going live and stuff. Like, send me an hour out ahead of time when VODs go up. And you can chat about shit in there if you want. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a Twitch link in the description. Swing by, say hi. And I think that's all I have to plug. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one. Bye!